If you're thinking of expanding into Asia Pacific or APAC, what are the common problems and pitfalls that may happen, especially if you're unfamiliar with this region? Most companies who decide to expand into the Asia Pacific region never even turn a profit, even at the end of 2 years being here. How do you avoid being one of them? So these are companies who are primarily based in the US, in the UK, in Europe, and they are trying to expand into Asia Pacific for the first time. My experience revolves around being the first or second sales rep on the ground, trying to reach out and acquire the first few customers in the new region. And being one of the first few on the ground when it comes to a new landing team, you get to experience in a very direct way both the good and the bad, because I was the one interacting with prospects and clients on a day-to-day basis. So for the rest of this episode of Scaling in APAC, I want to share the 3 most common problems or pitfalls I've personally experienced or heard about and give you insights into the impacts of those problems. Let's start with problem number 1, a general lack of knowledge of the Asia Pacific region. Now this is especially true for companies who may be primarily based in the US who are looking to expand into APAC for the first time. Because in the US, you could make the argument that most people are homogeneous, they all speak the same language, English being the primary language. And you could even argue that it doesn't matter if you sell to the East Coast or to the West Coast. While English is used as the main language of communication when it comes to official business relationship between these countries, many of them still like to conduct business in their own languages. And there are so many of them that we can get into. And other than languages, we also have to consider cultures as well as the level of maturity when it comes to buying your type of solution. Depending on the type of industry and the type of service or solution that you're offering, different countries have different levels of maturity. Let's take an example. Imagine if you're selling a software that is cloud-based and you find out that there are some companies in certain sectors that are highly regulated. They are probably not ready for cloud. They are probably still using on-premise solutions. And it may take years before changes take place due to other factors that are specific to the country or that region. Many companies in the United States have a direct selling motion, which means that the company gets in contact with the potential customer and sells their solution directly. Now, if you're trying to do that in some emerging countries in this region, like cold emailing or cold calling, you can't even get the contact information to begin with. Or maybe LinkedIn, which is a very popular channel for business communication, is not even big in that country. So you have to change your approach when it comes to even getting the first introductions to potential customers. Partnerships could be something you have to look into first. And understanding this first step is actually vital for APAC expansion, because that will help you determine which are the first markets you want to do an expansion into based on the resources and limitations you have. Here's the second problem that I see: not hiring the right first leader. Now, the first leader that you typically hire for your APAC expansion may be a general manager, or they may be a VP of sales or APAC. I can't begin to tell you how important this person is, because yes, while you have the company culture that you have established in the other markets, but when it comes to APAC, a new region, I can tell you that from personal experience, this leader is going to be the one to dictate that culture in this new market, especially in the early days. And not only that, because they are the ones who will often be given the autonomy or a really high level of influence to determine who they want to hire, what roles they want to hire for, what resources they require. All of your strategy, expansion plans, and implementation plans will rise and fall based on this person's decision. And this is where it can get really, really tricky. Because most companies may think, I need someone who actually understands the Asia Pacific region really well, who has been in an established company where they are present in many different markets within APAC. And you may be thinking to yourself, I want to hire those people who are the senior leaders in these companies. But often, that may not be the best choice. This is because some of these senior leaders were able to ride on the brand that has been established by their predecessors. And when you're first coming into a new market like APAC, it's tough because most people may not know your brand. Most people may not even know what you do. You have to be able to get someone who knows how to get you literally from 0 to 1. Not from 10 to 100 or from 100 to 1,000. You're trying to get someone to get you from nothing to something. And in fact, you may not like this, but you probably also want someone who argues back with you regarding the feasibility of an expansion plan that has been decided at the headquarters level. But this person should also be able to give you concrete reasons Why? If they do so, that is actually a good sign that they understand the market and the speed that this market operates in, which is normally slower than what you see in the other regions or the other markets. And speaking of hiring, here is problem number 3. I've realized very quickly in my career that for every leader who decides to hire a new headcount, that typically means that they are committing to getting at least a 3 to 5x revenue compared to the cost of hiring that headcount. And the problem is this: when you hire too quickly and you're still not really sure on what is the best way to grow in that new region, you end up with lots of costs from a headcount perspective, and also a really high revenue target that you may not be sure on whether you can achieve. And if you don't show the target achievement in the short term, it's really hard for you to ask for more resources, or it's really hard for you to ask for changes in terms of what you want to execute. So to me personally, if a leader in a new region is just trying to ask for a bunch of budget to hire a bunch of people, I may even argue that that is not the best way forward, because they don't really know what works yet. Even if it works in a previous company, you have to ask yourself, will it really work the same way now? Because things may have changed from then till now. A company was trying to expand into the Asia Pacific region because they wanted to aim for an IPO soon. And expanding into APAC was one of the good indicators that they are ready for an IPO. So when they first came into the region, they wanted to get revenue quickly. So one of the first things they wanted to go for was the government sector, go after the enterprise sectors, where they know they could get a lot of revenue. So they hired a bunch of enterprise sales representatives, people who have experience selling to these big companies and knew how to navigate around the internal politics. But what they didn't realize is this: when you're trying to sell solutions to government organizations or to enterprises, they require quite a few things from a technology or regulatory standpoint. One example is that they may require you to have a local data center. If you don't have that, you can't even get past the RFP process or the request for proposal process. So while you have a bunch of these enterprise sales reps who are really experienced, who are paid really, really well, they can't even execute on their plan simply because they are stopped by something that they couldn't control at all. And the result is this: 1 to 1.5 years later, they had to fire 80% of their workforce in APAC simply because the cost of retaining them is just not sustainable as compared to the revenue that they were bringing in. Even the head of APAC himself was let go. I've also had another experience where I've personally worked under a leader who in the first few months of being hired as a general manager personally cold called and emailed the first few prospects himself rather than just hiring a bunch of people to do the work for him. Because it was really important for this leader to understand what's happening on the ground, including the daily frustrations that his team may be facing. This is so he can determine what is the best strategy going forward. Now he chose to grow sustainably. What did that look like? Firstly, he hired customer success managers, not sales representatives, to take care and grow the existing accounts they already had. Because it's always easier to grow an existing customer rather than acquiring a new one. This allowed him to show immediate revenue growth to the headquarters really quickly, so they see the immediate impact that the team has, and it allowed him to ask for more resources. And before hiring a new salesperson, he made sure that the team is already at 100% of their target on a consistent basis or overachieving before they determine that there is capacity for another sales rep to come in. And he made sure that the territory is properly defined as well. Because every salesperson would know your territory is a huge factor in whether you can hit your quota. And the result is this: people stay for a really long time. And I'm talking 3 to 5 years on average, because everybody's happy as they are all hitting or close to hitting their quota, and you avoid lots of internal frustrations and issues. So I hope these 2 personal experiences give you a sneak peek into potential problems or pitfall when it comes to expansion into APAC, and gives you a good summary on the 3 things to take note of and how to make sure that you turn a profit within the first 2 to 3 years. Number 1, make sure that you understand this very diverse region, which is APAC, really clearly before coming here. Number 2, hire the right first leader. And lastly, make sure that you grow sustainably without hiring too quickly. Now, if you do all this well, I believe that you'll have a good time and a very enjoyable time expanding to this amazing region. Opportunities await you.